You magnificent little architects of your own chaos. Look at you, still standing after everything they threw. I mean that. I'm almost proud, almost. Now, a bombshell, right? Hey, that delicious little tremor you feel when the people who hold the power, the ones who sign the checks, big checks, make the final calls, sit in the judgment seats. They are not just listening to you. They are genuinely amazed at how you walked through a furnace that was custom-built, blueprinted, and temperature-tested specifically to melt you down to nothing. Amazed that you are standing here not just intact but absolutely undeniable. And the gossip, the whispers, the lies, the social demolition job that was supposed to leave you hollowed out and begging for mercy. You are flicking all of it, every last crumb of it, off your shoulder like lint on a velvet jacket. That is not a fantasy, my dazzling little provocateurs. That is a reality unfolding right now, in real time, on the main stage. But, and here is where I lean in close, we need to talk about what it actually took to get here. Because the word bombshell does not just mean shock. It means an explosion, an eruption that rearranges the whole landscape. So here is what is happening. You are walking into rooms right now, professional rooms, maybe even legal ones. And there is a shift in the atmosphere, a tilt. People who once looked at you with suspicion, because that is what they were coached to do. That is the script they were handed. They are looking at you now with something entirely different. Curiosity, respect, maybe even a tremor of awe. But it is wrapped in professional caution because they are authority figures, you see. They have protocols, they have procedures, they have very expensive chairs. But the thing about authority figures is that they are not machines. They have instincts, and right now, those instincts are absolutely screaming at them that something does not compute. The narrative they were handed about you, the one that was so carefully stitched together with half-truths and outright fabrications, it is starting to unravel. Big, sloppy, undeniable unraveling. And when that narrative falls apart, the whole scaffolding of your so-called reputation problem collapses right along with it. Poof! Gone. Like smoke from a very entertaining fire. Now let me ask you something, sweetheart. Have you ever been in a situation where you know you have been talked about, but you cannot prove it? You can feel the sideways glances in the break room, the way conversations screech to a halt just a beat, too quickly when you walk by, the way certain emails are just a touch too strategically vague. That is the ecosystem of gossip. It is not just words, no. It is a fog, a low-frequency hum of anxiety that follows you everywhere like a stray cat you never fed, but somehow adopted you. And it is engineered, deliberately engineered, to make you doubt yourself. Because here is the trick about gossip, and it is a nasty little trick. It does not have to be true to be effective. It just has to be persistent. That is all. It just has to be loud enough. And the people who spread it, they are banking. Absolutely banking. On the fact that you will get tired, that you will retreat, that you will stay quiet, and hope it blows over like a bad weather forecast. They are counting on you shrinking. But here is the bombshell, my resilient little phoenixes. You did not shrink. You grew, and that growth, it is now impossible to ignore for the people who matter most. No cap. Think about that for a second. Authority figures. Who are they, really? They are the ones who make decisions that affect your career, your reputation, your entire trajectory. Maybe it is a board of directors at a company where you have invested years of your life. Maybe it is a professional licensing board that has the power to pull your credentials like a tablecloth from under the china. Maybe it is even a legal authority where the stakes are stratospheric. But whoever they are not just rubber stamps. They are human beings with enormous pressure on them, and they have been presented with a narrative that has been purposely warped. And for a long time, they may have accepted that narrative. Because it was easier. Because it came from people who were loud, people who were aggressive, people who were pathologically gifted at performing victimhood while simultaneously shoving you into oncoming traffic. But here is the thing about playing the victim for too long. Eventually, the costume starts to tear. Eventually, the contradictions pile up like unpaid bills. And these authority figures, they are not foolish. They're just busy. But once they start paying attention, once they start really examining the receipts, the whole fortress of fiction crumbles to dust. Hold that thought. You're looking at reality all wrong. They thought they broke you, but they just triggered your mutation. I wrote a 73-page blueprint to finalize your transformation. Audiobook or ebook, link in the description. Anyway, back to the madness. Let us get specific about what that gossip actually did to you. It was not just a few snarky comments on a rough day. It was sustained. It was coordinated. There was an actual playbook behind it. And the strategy was surgical. Isolate you, strip away your allies one by one, until you felt so alone you would just surrender. Make you question your own perception of reality, because the story they were spinning was so wildly different from what you actually lived through. You would walk into a meeting and see the faces of people you had known for years, and they would look through you like you were made of glass. You would send an email and get a one-word reply from someone who used to send you paragraphs dripping with warmth. You would be frozen out of projects that were squarely in your lane. And the worst part, oh, this is the part that really sizzles. You could not defend yourself because you did not even know exactly what was being said. You were boxing a shadow, and the shadow was winning on points. But then, something shifted, and that shift is the part the authority figures are now watching with something dangerously close to amazement. Because at some point, you stopped trying to prove your innocence to people who had already written the verdict. You just stopped. You stopped trying to play their rigged game on their tilted board. You started documenting. You started stepping back and seeing the forest instead of being lost in the individual poison trees. And you started trusting your own reality more than the bootleg version of reality that was being broadcast at you 24/7. That, right there, is the moment the power dynamic flipped. Because when you stop chasing phantoms and start walking toward the sun, the phantoms evaporate. Now, the authority figures are watching you. They have been watching all along, actually. Low-key observing how you handle pressure, absorbing how you interact with the people who are supposedly your adversaries, reading between the lines of every carefully constructed statement. And what they have seen, a person who did not crack, a person who, when pushed, became more grounded, when lied about, became more transparent, when attacked, became more generous. That is not a common trait, sunshine. In fact, it is rare enough to be genuinely awe-inspiring. Most people, when subjected to that kind of relentless pressure, either implode or detonate in ways that ultimately torch their own position. But you did something else entirely. You did the work. The hard, boring, invisible, unglamorous work of just staying true to yourself while everyone around you was spinning out. And that is what has them amazed. But let us be honest about why they are amazed. It is because they expected you to fail, not because they are villains. Well, not all of them, but because that is what the statistics predict. Most people, when you strip away their social standing, their friendships, their good name, they either shatter or they go supernova. They do something reckless that confirms every whisper. They prove the gossips prophetic. Because the gossips are feeding off your reaction energy, you see. That is the real trap. It is bait. Something they can point at and say, "See, we told you so." But you did not take the bait. You did not throw the punch. You did something infinitely more devastating. You stayed steady, and that right there is the bombshell. That is the thing currently ricocheting through the boardrooms, the chambers, the corner offices, the thing that has the judge, the board member, the CEO, the senior partner all asking, "Wait, who is this person, and how did I miss it?" You have spent months running a mental prison simulator, trying to figure out why the clones and copies turned on your soul. Stop looking back at a house that has already burned down. It is time to transition your identity from a defensive survivor into an offensive, high-altitude architect. You possess the internal light. Now you require the structural blueprint to reconstruct your physical reality. True ascension requires you to stop reacting to their synthetic scripts and start building an independent, untargetable digital empire from the dark register. But we will open the master gates to that infrastructure next month. For today, focus on your internal frame. Now let us talk about what this chorus of authority figures is actually seeing when they look at you. They are seeing someone who is disciplined, not in the rigid boot camp sense, but in the emotional sense. Someone who does not fire off the rage email, who does not have the public meltdown. They are seeing someone who, in the eye of an absolute hurricane, somehow managed to pour a concrete foundation. There is a composure about you that is deeply unsettling to your enemies and irresistibly magnetic to your allies. They see someone who is on a mission, and the mission is not revenge. The mission is not some dramatic name-clearing spectacle. The mission is just constructing a reality so solid, so bulletproof, that the gossip simply cannot penetrate it. You are not fighting the gossip anymore. You are making it obsolete. And that distinction, that elegant, surgical distinction, is the thing authority figures find so compelling because they are in the business of assessment. They assess risk. They assess potential. They assess character. And when they look at you, they see someone who has aced the ultimate character exam, the one where you are stripped of every external advantage and had to navigate by nothing but your internal compass. And your internal compass, as it turns out, is platinum, pure, uncut platinum. They are seeing someone who has what the corporate world calls executive presence. That indefinable quality that makes people lean in when you speak. That makes people trust you before they even know your story. And they are realizing that the gossip did not just misrepresent you. It actively suppressed you. It held you back from being recognized the way you deserve to be recognized. That is a whole vibe shift, my darlings, and everybody in the room can feel it. Let us talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets genuinely electric. When you are in a situation like this, where your enemies have been running a full-blown character demolition campaign, there is a moment when the spell shatters. It is a public moment, Even if public just means the small circle of decision-makers who hold the keys. Maybe it is a hearing, maybe it is a formal investigation, maybe it is just a meeting where the question of your character is finally, definitively, permanently put to bed. And in that moment, the authority figures are not just seeing you clearly, they are seeing through your enemies. They are clocking the inconsistencies, the manufactured emotion, the conspicuous absence of evidence, the contradictions stacked like a tower of mismatched blocks. And they are realizing they have been played. They are realizing they almost discarded someone extraordinary, someone irreplaceable, because they bought a counterfeit story from a very convincing con artist. And that realization, it is a powerful motivator. They want to make it right. They want to shield you now, not out of guilt, out of genuine recognition that you are the stable, trustworthy anchor in an ocean of manufactured chaos. Let us be real, though. The gossip did not just affect you professionally. It got personal. Your enemies tried to poison your relationships, your friendships, your family bonds, maybe your standing in your entire community. They tried to make you feel ashamed of your own reflection. They tried to steal your joy like pickpockets at a carnival. And if we are being 100% honest, some of that worked for a while. There were days when you did not want to get out of bed, days when the sheer gravitational weight of being disliked, of being deliberately misunderstood, was so crushing you could barely draw a breath. You might have even started to internalize it. You might have looked in the mirror and whispered, "Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I did do something to deserve this." That is the truly insidious thing about gossip. It does not stay external. It burrows inward. It becomes a voice in your own head that sounds exactly like the people who despise you. But you pushed through that wall. You survived. And now that survival is not just a story. It is the bedrock of something far stronger. You are not the victim of gossip anymore, my incandescent little legends. You are the person who conquered gossip. And those are two fundamentally, categorically, cosmically different identities. The authority figures see this too. Oh, they see it crystal clear. They see a person who has walked through a war zone and emerged from the other side, not just intact, but radiant, glowing. Because that is what happens when you face the worst version of human cruelty and you win. Not by becoming cruel yourself, but by becoming more yourself. There's a light that enters your eyes, a certainty in your stride, a way you carry yourself that says, without a single word, I have nothing to prove to you, nothing. And that presence, that quiet, devastating, undeniable presence, is so commanding that it forces people to sit up and pay attention. They are not just amazed by your survival. They are amazed by your metamorphosis. They are amazed by the way you have taken a smear campaign and alchemized it into a master class in character. That is not something just anyone can do. That is something only the most formidable among us can pull off. And you have pulled it off spectacularly. Now let us think about the future, because this bombshell moment is not just about vindication. It is about emancipation. You have been shouldering the weight of the gossip for a long, long time. And now, you are setting it down. You are brushing the ash off your hands. You are taking the name that was dragged through sewage and buffing it until it gleams like it was always meant to. And those authority figures, they want to be part of that story. They want a seat in your next chapter. They are not just saying kind things about you behind closed doors. They are actively pulling levers you did not even know existed. They are unlocking gates you assumed were permanently sealed. Because when you carry that kind of power, the power of integrity, the power of resilience, people are magnetically drawn to you. They want to bask in your glow. There's a moment in every battle where the momentum shifts. You might not even clock it at first. It is subtle. Maybe it is a remark someone makes in your defense that you never requested. Maybe it is an invitation you received that your enemies tried desperately to intercept. Maybe it is a sudden ceasefire. The attacks just stop, because the attacker finally understands they cannot win this one. That is the momentum shifting. And the authority figures, they are not just noticing that shift. They are the ones who engineered it. They are the ones who examined the evidence, weighed the character, studied the facts, and said, enough, enough, hey. Now that is a bombshell worth dropping.